Notre Dame, thought the team tried hard and fell short through execution. Critical moments, few critical plays, slow start defensively, and then the blocked kick at the end. So disappointing loss that we didn't make a couple plays that we needed to make. And now looking forward to gaining momentum and seeing how good our team can play and how much improvement we can make in a short amount of time. We have 2 games left. Anxious to play really well this week and again continue to make it a really favorable experience for our seniors and do whatever we can to make sure that happens and then finish the postseason strong. So I'll take questions.
You mentioned that just came up a couple of plays short. That's kind of been the same thing that happened in all 4 losses. What does it take to get a team beyond that, where they're making those plays instead of coming up short?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a matter of consistency. I think it's a matter of execution in practice on a day in and day out basis. And so I think the next step, as we continue to play better and better teams and more frequently and on the road, the level that we prepare and demonstrate preparation and practice has to increase. And so working hard is one thing, actually executing and playing well while you're working hard in the week in practice is something else. And so that's the next part of it, is now taking how hard they're working and the improvement we've made as a team this year over a year ago, which I think is pretty significant, and now translate that into more specific and better play against the best opponents more consistently and on the road, which is what's going to be happening in the next 3 years.
Coach, can you talk about your pass rush against Notre Dame and maybe how you're working to improve that, and how can you improve that?
Really, we knew going in there wouldn't be much pressure. I think they've been sacked 7 times on the year. Their idea is not to allow you to sack them, to throw the ball very, very quickly, and then through empty formations make sure it gets out before you can get there. And so even though we set pressure, the pressure wasn't really to ensure that sacks happened. It was to make sure that we had the ball thrown where we wanted it to be thrown on time. Unfortunately then a few PI calls and a few plays not made. And so that's it wasn't really a surprise that they weren't going to hold the ball long enough to get there.
Can you talk about your safety play this year? Focus has been on the linebackers, but your 2 safeties have played exceptionally.
Our safeties have played really, really well. When you put Daniel Sorensen and Craig Bills and you put them behind Wani Unga, those 3 players have been very, very, very consistent. In fact, I'd go one step further and go from Ethan. If you go down the middle of our defense, from Ethan to Wani to both safeties, and say just consistency-wise, because I think the safety play is tied to those 2 guys in front of them, and so I would put all 4 of those guys in the same kind of consistency group.
So Craig Bills is right up there with Daniel.
He's done a really nice job. Yeah, Daniel is more experienced and is featured more within our defense, with the exception of some missed tackles against Wisconsin. Craig has played, I think, really well.
When it comes to Taysom Hill, he gets a lot of attention once again against Notre Dame. Looked like they were really paying attention to him, opened up some things for Paul. Is there a way you can take advantage of all the attention that people are giving to Taysom as far as his running and passing?
I think what you saw happen when we run the ball physically is over 5 yards a carry. And so the next step is translating all the rushing yards into blue zone scores, not just blue zone appearances, but blue zone scores. And so the teams that want to focus on Taysom and or play max coverage and take away Cody as much as possible, it is at their own peril in terms of going up and down the field. But then if there's 3 or 4 or 5 blue zone chances, those have to be translated into points. And so that's really, I wasn't disappointed with how the ball was moved. It's then just finishing the drives.
Kyle Van Noy going back to Reno. Can you talk about what maybe that means to you as a coach, and maybe to him, the team?
Man, to me, I'm not really focusing on Kyle as much going back. We've played Reno 1 time since I've been the coach. Chris Alt was the head coach there, and they came in with Kaepernick and beat us, I think, 24-0, 24-something. I don't remember much of the game other than their quarterback. I remember that feeling, and so I haven't thought much about Kyle. I mean, I'm sure he could talk a lot about what it's going to be like for him to go back, but their offense is actually very, very similar. I would say probably 80% of the offense is similar to ours, maybe a hair more than that. And so the styles, mobile quarterbacks, good running game, some big receivers out on the outside, similar to Cody and Ross and Mitch and those guys. So it's a pretty unique matchup, I think.
Kyle's obviously undergone a lot of change since he's come to be away from Reno. If you were just to pinpoint maybe the biggest change you've seen come over him, what would it be?
I would just say life experience and maturity. And there's no way to describe other than maybe a BYU quarterback. And I'm not even sure that would be the case in recent years. Kyle probably has had more attention and more praise and more spotlight maybe than any other player. I can't say in BYU history, but he has to be probably top 5 and featured on billboards and magazines and books and et cetera, et cetera. And so if you think about that for a young person or any person, and then to stay grounded, stable, consistent, and continue to learn and grow and be teachable along the way,